Hey guys, Tara here bringing you the December balance preview 1.7 to 2.0 updates. Do them all in one hit, and they're not too long, so should be good as one continuous video. So let's get stuck in. Soviet tank hunters, RPG 40 grenade assault, 2 strong versus medium and heavy armor, penetration reverted from always penetrate to penetration of 150. So you know it's always going to penetrate rear armor. Frontal armor penetrate most of the time against medium tanks, about half the time against heavy tanks. Aim time max partially reverted to 1 from 1.375. Oh, from 1 to 1.375. I don't really like that change. I tried, you know, if you saw my December balance 1.8 game Von Ivan and Red Wings, you'll know that I couldn't get this ability off on a King Tiger, which moves quite slowly. Anyway, fixed an issue where it was not possible to target neutral vehicles. That's a good change. Conscript PTRS deflection damage reverted from 20 to 13. So standard for handheld anti-tank deflection damage is 25%. So that would be 10 on the PTRS, I believe. PTRS still kind of punching above their weight in terms of deflection damage, so that's alright. Light artillery barrage, partially reverts cost from 90 to 100. Okay. There you go, infantry ambush tactics. We found 0 CP sprint came too early and was difficult to counter at that stage of a match. Now requires 1 command point, both sprint and camouflage. That's also fine. Probably should have stayed at 1 CP just like the camouflage was before. Ostrupen, we find that our previous recharge time change to Ostrupen was completely ineffective. To balance the Ostrupen Doctrine early game, we are instead delaying the first Ostrupen squad to hit the field. This should give players more of a tactical choice between taking tier 1 with Ostrupen or going directly for tier 2. Cooldown between squads partially reverted from 35 to 25. Ostrupen call in now start on cooldown. Just trying to think about build orders to go with this. I don't really like this change, honestly. I think part of the appeal of using the Ostrupen Doctrine is to bring a different playstyle to the market where you can kind of flood the field early, and you know, it's kind of useful on specific maps, but obviously that's kind of not going to be the case from here on out. So what would your build be? You could probably go machine gun, Ostrupen. I think that'd probably work. But yeah, you're not going to be able to get the Ostrupen into a critical position early in the game. So it makes you think, well, why do I even want to use Ostrupen instead of Grenadiers anyway? Even though now you can upgrade them with LMGs at tier 4. Supply drop. The power drop animations for the PaK 40 and MG34 have been adjusted to make it more clear to the player. The team weapons now drop in separate crates from the fuel and munitions crates. And okay, it's a reasonable change. USF Recon Support Company Raid Tactics, because I thought this was maybe a little bit confusing if you'd never seen it before, that the weapons will be inside the supply crates. But that's, yeah, whatever, it's fine. USF Recon Support Company Raid Tactics. Infantry sight bonus changed from multiplicative to additive. So I imagine 20% on something like Pathfinders, which have longer sight already, could give them insane line of sight, so that's probably why they're changing it. Now fix capture and decapture rates by equal amounts. Fix an issue where the ability would not apply to certain light vehicles properly. Okay. Greyhounds. Hold fire also disables the MG from firing, so that's useful in situations where you're trying to get the Greyhound out. And especially because the Greyhound's machine gun has longer range than a lot of other machine guns. So if you're trying to like disappear into the fog of war, you want the machine gun to stop firing so your tank disappears into the fog of war more quickly. So maybe you can, avoid an extra shot from an anti-tank gun or something like that. So that's a good change there. Cluster bombs. We're making the ability more consistent while adding more warning time for the enemy player to escape. Yeah, this did come down too quickly beforehand. So drop height from 40 to 50, scatter reduced. So I demonstrated the scatter on this was wild as shit. So trying to reduce the scatter a little bit and properly adjusted the ability radius indicator. Sweet. Yeah, cluster bombs. It just came down way too quickly. So that's a good change. Mechanized Company M3 Assault Group. Assault Engineer Squad replaces the vehicle crew. This is a very strange change. Trying builds with this, I found it hard to fit an M3 half-track into my build. But then this is also weird, because what are you going to do? Are you going to pop your rear echelons into this to try and use your assault engineers? It seems a very odd change to me. But as I said, I couldn't really work the M3 half-track into my builds, so I don't know. So it doesn't seem that good. Anyway, assault engineers, pop cap reduced from 8 to 7. Good change there. Costing 8 is like insane, especially after the pop cap changes to things like grenadiers in this patch as well. WC-51 military truck. We find the WC-51 truck is too powerful when coming out early due to its ability to carry riflemen and also push enemy squads out of cover. Certainly strong against OKW because they don't get Fausts for a while, but I thought with the machine gun having to be upgraded at 60 munitions, I thought that certainly reduced the potency of the military truck as well as the other changes to it, but they're going to change it anyway. Now is a starting cooldown of 60 seconds, so it comes in, I don't know, I don't think anybody was really building it immediately anyway, so I don't think the starting cooldown is going to change much. Fixed multiple animation issues with the canopy and the gunner. Okay, fixed an issue where the ability would display the wrong pop cap requirements. Yeah, I think I noticed that when I was testing it. We found that the M21 half-track's value for its cost was out of alignment. Barrage attack. Oh, okay, so they're keeping the cost the same, but they're decreasing its strength. Barrage attack scatter now matches the 250 81mm mortar, so that's the austere mortar half-track. So that's fine. Auto attack, excuse me, reload time increased from 4 to 5 seconds. Health reduced from 320 to 240. So yeah, this was reasonably strong. I felt like, yeah, it was quite good at doing damage to squads, but quite bad at killing models, so this is an interesting change. Decreasing it to 240 health means it will now die to like 2 Puma shots, or maybe at 222 chasing it down will actually kill it a lot more quickly. So yeah, definitely a decrease in strength for the Mortar half-track, but remember it did receive a cost reduction in this patch as well. But yeah, I did find that when I used it, players had trouble killing it. So yeah, the health reduction is probably fine, the scatter reduction is probably fine. Auto attack change, maybe didn't need changing. Okay, LEIG 18, cost decreased to 270, so now it's going to be very close in cost to mortars. Population cost reduced from 9 to 7, probably justified now. 7, it's still 1 pop cap higher than regular mortars, so that's probably fair because it does get the better barrage range from you know, it doesn't need vet 3 or whatever to get the increased barrage range, so that's probably fine. It costs a little bit more than mortar teams at the moment. Penetration reduced from 75 to 35. Alright. Incendiary barrage scatter fog of war penalty increased from 1.25 to 1.75. This is actually probably a slight buff, I feel. Especially if you're trying to do it against maybe not a building, but a formation of team weapons. Because it did seem to have quite low scatter, so the shells kind of end up stacking on top of each other. So now it will kind of actually cover a wider area if you're doing it to the fog of war, which is probably actually slightly better. Firestorm Doctrine. Fox Model 24 grenades. So this is, yeah, once you upgrade the assault package, the HE grenade cost reduction from 30 to 25. Hits, I'm not going to contest that, it's a fine change. Hits population properly adjusted to 10. Okay, it's more of a bug fix, I feel. Fix an issue where it was still possible to call in a hitser from the ability. Yeah, another bug fix. Should probably be included in the bug fix section. Rocket barrage. The final 2 rockets are now guaranteed to land in the center of the ability. So this is like I tested. The rockets would sometimes not actually kill the howitzer even after increasing the number of rockets from 4 to 6. So now it will probably guaranteed kill the howitzer if you do it directly on the howitzer, but the final 2 rockets will guaranteed kill the howitzer. The other 2 will scatter more widely. So yeah, if you're getting out of the way with your squads and whatnot, it should allow you time to get out of the way. And also, as you're getting away from the center, you know, the last 2 rockets will guaranteed hit the center. So the last 2 rockets won't scatter super wide and catch you as you're retreating out of the way. So yeah, more focus now on killing emplacements, or not, like howitzers, and less on infantry. Overall Blitz cooldown reduction now also affects Stern Pioneer medkits. That's a pretty cool change, because yeah, the idea is to kind of use it as your hub to make an aggressive push. Or a reload bonus reduces reload time by 35% for infantry weapons, not communicated previously. So does this mean like regular infantry weapons, or are they talking about like LMGs and stuff? I guess it's the latter, like for LMGs and similar equipped weapons. Luftwaffe air support, flak emplacement, manpower cost from 250 to 220. Yeah, I think I recommended them reducing the manpower cost. Build time reduced from 120 to 100. Okay, I actually played, if you caught that game, same game with Von Ivan and Red Wings, and they built a few of these, and they are actually quite hard to kill with just like a mortar team. It takes a lot of fire to kill them, because it appears that you can't decrew them with mortar fire. You can only destroy the weapon health. So yeah, they do take quite a while to kill with mortar fire. Valiant Assault's duration increased from 30 to 45 seconds. Pretty big buff, and playing against this Von Ivan using this was a real pain in the ass. Fallschirmjäger with sprint for 45 seconds is an absolute nightmare. And then stack on top of that the accuracy bonus it gives. It was a real problem dealing with that. Very hard to deal with it. Didn't like it. Fallschirmjäger, we found that the infiltration ability failed to provide the necessary punch for the commander with 3-man squads, while creating a nearly impossible to counter squad wipes at 4-man. Okay. Thus we are experimenting with introducing Fallschirmjägers to the battlefield in a different way, now come down as a paradrop ability instead of out of buildings. Delivers a 4-man squad of Fallschirmjägers anywhere on the map. Costs from 400 to 380. Very confusing that they're reducing the cost of these. What do our paratroopers cost? Oh, I don't know if you can trust these values, right? Okay, never mind. Seems a little bit cheap. Reinforcement cost from 38 to 36, that's a good change. They got too expensive to reinforce, but I don't really like the decrease in cooldown cost, especially because they received improvements this patch. Overall, I thought. And playing against them was actually a real problem. There was one game I didn't put up, but it was on my Twitch, once again against Von Ivan and Red Wings. I think Von Ivan had Fallschirmjäger, and this was kind of in like a close quarters environment, kind of in a wooded area of a map. And I had Vet 3 shock troops versus Vet 5 Fallschirmjäger, and the Fallschirmjäger quite handily beat my shock troops. So Fallschirmjäger are really strong, and even against shock troops, supposed to be the most powerful unit. Like, I did have to close the distance a little bit to get there, but yeah, it was a beatdown. I think I dropped one model and I lost 5 in return. So yeah, they're really strong, Fallschirmjäger. I don't think they needed cooldown cost reduction. Airborne Assault. We are removing Fallschirmjäger drops from the Airborne Assault activity from the Doctrine to make it more accessible. No longer paradrops for Fallschirmjäger squad. Provides 2 Ju-87 aircraft anti-tank strafes, similar to Stu Close Air Support from Wehrmacht. Fallschirmjäger can now reinforce while the ability is active. Cost reduced from 250 to 200. CP requirements from 10 to 12, so matching close air support for Wehrmacht. They changed this again in a coming patch, so I'm not going to dwell on these changes too much. British Universal Carrier repair speed penalty from 75. Self repair ability. Repair speed penalty 75% when in combat. That's fine. It was very hard to kill this thing whilst self-repair was going on, and it kind of allowed it a bit of a get out of jail free card in some situations, similar to the old T-Serenity repair. Commando smoke grenades cost reverted from 25 to 15. Okay. Infiltration commandos further reduced from 400 to 370. See, this is one that I can get on board with decreasing cost of, because yeah, this one you still have to reinforce, of course, from 3 to 5, so that costs another 70 manpower or whatever. So yeah, that one I actually asked for, so that's a good change. Infantry section Tommies are receiving additional changes to their received accuracy to allow them to be more offensive, less dependent on cover to engage enemy squads effectively. Removed in cover bonus 0.9 received accuracy. Squad retains offensive bonus and cover. Reverted target size from 0.9 to 0.8. So yeah, they nerfed Tommies earlier in this patch, so now they're buffing them again but removing their in cover bonus for received accuracy. So overall, I don't really like this change. I feel like this is how Brits are supposed to be played, like more defensively and then using cover. And if you want to try and play them offensively, you should use their newly revised Commandos commander. So I don't really like this change overall. Bug fixes, unimportant stuff. 1.8 update. Panzerfaust bug fix. Ooh, they're fixing the Panzerfaust. So sometimes it would just bug out and hit the ground and stuff, so hopefully they fix that. Sounds good. Light mines. To better align with their value and cost, the severity of temporary light mine has been reduced. Didn't they increase the plant time of these recently? Seems like especially like for re-echelons, they're probably still going to be used, but the Soviets, I feel like, you're just going to make a regular mine, unless you're going to stack the mines like I demonstrated in my video. That's the only situation I feel like you use the mines now for Soviets. Anyway, gammon bomb / bundle grenade costs from 40 to 35 because they decreased its damage, which is probably alright. It's a pretty minor change anyway. Soviet for Mother Russia, duration partially reverted from 30 to 45, so it went from 60 to 30, now back to 45. Still think similar to Valiant Assault. It's being able to sprint forwards, especially with the newly improved conscripts, and of course with shock troops available in that commando, is very powerful. And the offensive bonuses it gives you as well. Yeah, I don't know. Still seems very powerful for 70 munitions. For marked Stuka smoke drops, now targetable in the fog of war, to allow dual smoke and recon roll. Good change. Mortar half track. Smoke on cooldown. On separate cooldown from offensive ability, so similar to the US Forces Mortar half track now. Mortar half track, I feel for Vermark was in a weird spot, hard to justify using it. Hopefully this makes it a little bit more viable. Probably not. It's very hard sometimes to find a spot where you can afford to, like, in the early game, lose 20 or 30 fuel to make a mortar half track. I forget how much it costs, but something like that. To, you know, delay your tanks so you'll get their benefit from it that won't then get countered by a light vehicle. Probably, yeah, it might be best against the Brits, honestly. It's maybe something I'll test, because I feel like the Brits are quite reluctant to get the AEC these days because of how little damage it does to infantry. So maybe we'll be alright against the Brits in 1v1s at least. So as other utility against the Brits as well, the incendiary barrage from the mortar half track is pretty good against emplacements, especially the freshly nerfed emplacements. USCF Recon Support Company Raid Tactics. We found the light vehicle bonuses of the ability underperforming in light of how situational the ability is. Light vehicle capture decapture rate increased from 1.25 to 2.5. That's a huge bonus. Infantry decapture capture rate removed, site bonus remains. So they're really trying to emphasize using this on vehicles, or light vehicles rather. It does make it a lot more situational, more early game focused, because, you know, by the time you get the late game you've probably lost your light vehicles. So it's definitely more focused on the early game. I don't think, with this change, I don't think it'll be used nearly as much as before, honestly. And I felt like already in this commander, you know, having to call in the paratroopers costing you munitions. There's quite a lot of like early taxes on your munitions in this commander. And yeah, it'll be situational instead of overall good in the early game, I think. Cluster bombs, they're changing them again. We felt the ability did not provide sufficient warning compared to the damage it could inflict. Cluster bombs are now delivered by aircraft. Cluster bombs drop in 4 waves and a similar concentration to and a smaller concentration in the outer rings of the ability. So more focused on the middle. Okay. Scatter increased from 15 to 17. So I think that reverts the scatter nerf from before, right? Or buff from earlier in these patch notes. Damage per mine from 40 to 30. So I'll actually have to demonstrate this one. It's quite a drastic change. Okay, so here we are. We're going to test the revised M83 cluster bombs. See, it's had a revision to its radius indicator. Similar test to last time, so we'll see how this goes now. Then comes the plane. So quite a long delay now before the bombs start arriving. So it's the first wave. Second wave, very powerful. Oh, okay, I thought this was coming in over 4 waves, but apparently not. It still looks very powerful, but the delay is obviously a lot longer. Probably a lot more comparable now to fragmentation bombs, which actually cost twice as much as this. So still a very, very powerful ability for its cost. Yeah, probably comes in slightly slower than fragmentation bombs, but has a similar damage. So yeah, very powerful ability. You make Greyhound, the lethality of the main gun is higher than intended. We want to make the Greyhound more reliant on its MG upgrade and the canister shot. So once again, another thing to this commander requires munitions for upgrading the machine gun on your Greyhound and using it for canister shot, which kind of denies you the ability to get bars on your rifleman. So you have to consider where your munitions is going with this commander, which is why raid tactics getting this change is a problem. Well, not a problem, but overall I feel like a nerf. Anyway, lethality, yeah, so they're changing AoE on the main gun. So this is an interesting change. The near AoE is going to 0.8. So even like if you get a direct hit on infantry, you'll be doing 0.8 times the 60 damage per shot. But when fighting against vehicles, it'll still be doing 60 damage every time it penetrates. So it's a very novel and I think quite a good way of changing a unit to be you know, not as effective against infantry but still effective against vehicles. It's quite interesting. But yeah, the Greyhound's lethality was extremely high, but it also does come at 5 CPs. I feel like this is it's a weird one, because I feel like if you're in a good position in the and it's like quite an aggressive game where the CP count comes quite quickly, the Greyhound is very powerful. But if it's like kind of a more low action game, you get even if it's like quite even. If it's a low action game, the Greyhound comes very late. So you're definitely not going to use it in their situations now after this change. Fox Unity's STG upgrade now takes 1 slot instead of 2. They actually revert this change because it was in the next patch, because it's a fucking stupid change. Just a terrible idea. STG Fox Unities are already more than powerful enough. And yeah, by the STG upgrade taking up both these slots, it's kind of like Conscripts only having 1 slot in this patch. It's very similar, I feel. Anyway, LMG-34. We felt that the LMG-34 would generally overperform when picked up by non-elite infantry due to the higher than average veterancy bonuses on non-elite infantry. Yeah, I mean, if you ever picked up an Ober LMG on a squad of Conscripts, it was just nutty. So good. So they're changing it, the LMG-34. Non-elite squads, they pick it up, they'll do 4 damage instead of 6. So I imagine if you pick the LMG up with paratroopers or something like that, you'll keep the 6 damage and still be able to fire on the move, so still be very powerful. Oh, Fallschirmjäger. To help with the Fallschirmjäger scaling due to their generally later arrival, we've adjusted their veterancy requirements as follows. So they're decreasing it by a decent chunk, over 10%. Especially those last 2 stages, or the last stage, Vet 5, comes way earlier than before. It's like 20% earlier than before. Pretty big veterancy cost. Veterancy requirement decrease, and as I said, I felt like Fallschirmjäger were a little bit too strong. which was in 1.8, which is this update here. So yeah, I don't know, especially with the buffed Vet 3. I feel like the Vet 3 should definitely not come any earlier than it was before. Maybe the Vet 1 and Vet 2, alright, but the Vet 3 is I feel like a massive power spike at the moment. Should not come earlier. Air assault operation. We are changing the way airplanes deliver their payload to return some of the original uniqueness of the ability and make it more distinct from the Wehrmacht close air support ability. Multiple airplanes deliver AI/anti-tank strafes at a precise target location. AT loiter airplanes. Sorry, there's a bus and a motorcycle going past right now. I have to have my window open. It's cooking today. Cooking. So hot. I'm actually sweating like crazy. Ooh, see, you might be able to see a slight glisten on my forehead there. My forehead. Anyway. AT loiter. Yeah, so they're changing the loiter from 3 strafes to 2 strafes. But I feel like for Wehrmacht close air support, you almost never get 3 strafes off anyway. Everybody's like, get the hell out of this ability, it's so strong. So I feel like this is probably actually now stronger than Wehrmacht close air support, because the 3rd strafe very rarely goes off for close air support, and this one gives you anti-infantry at the start of it as well. So yeah, I feel like this is actually stronger than Wehrmacht close air support. And they actually mentioned later on that they're changing the loiter system so that all loiters last the same period of time and have the same AoE or something. So even if it's 2 down from 3, if you get out of the zone after the first pass, if the plane's still loitering for the same amount of time as the 3 strafe plane, it doesn't even matter, right? You still can't go in that zone because the second pass could come through and own you. So unless they decrease the loiter time on this is actually just, in my opinion, straight up better than the Wehrmacht close air support ability. So yeah, that's my opinion on air assaults. Firestorm flame Hetzer. Felt the newly added tech requirements for the Hetzer and the current fuel cost made it a low use case unit, competing with other units at the same tier, thus to keep the unit attractive while preventing it from being too dominant on its arrival on the field. We made the following changes. Fuel cost reduced from 100 to 90, so decreasing the fuel cost, like 50 fuel cheaper than the Panzer 4, right? Pretty sure new Panzer 4 is 140 fuel. Is a big change. That's like 2 minutes, especially if you're on a building with a lot of maps. I think, you know, that you could definitely find a place to use the Hetzer at this fuel cost. Damage reduced from 12 to 9. Affects only direct damage, does not affect damage over time damage. So I talked about this in my previous video about how you may want to drive the Hetzer a little bit further forwards and also maybe use attack grounds if the squad is like quite spaced out, to try and get the pool of flame that goes underneath the squad to cover the whole squad. And this actually kind of makes that use better on the Hetzer. Well, like, because the Hetzer is getting direct damage reduced, now you benefit more from getting the flame pool on the whole squad than just right clicking on a squad and letting the direct damage actually do the work. So yeah, make sure you do that when using this revised Hetzer. Fortunately, the MP40 upgrade. Find the risk reward of the MP40 upgrade, although appealing, not worth the trade-off in its current state. As to improve the cost versus benefit, we have applied the following bonus. Now also confers a 0.93 received accuracy bonus. So it's going to help you with your Volkswagen is try to close the distance on squads. We've seen that once the Fox units get in close, they can beat penals, they beat riflemen. They're actually quite powerful once they get point blank on most other units that they'll be fighting at that point in the game. So now they'll be able to close their distance without taking too much damage and make that happen. And on close quarters maps, they're going to be even more powerful when you come, maybe come around a corner on another unit. You've got a 0.93 accuracy bonus. You're going to beat them even more handily in close range combat. So yeah, that's actually a pretty powerful upgrade. I suppose it's like 7% received accuracy bonus. It's not huge. Most commonly you see from veterancy upgrades like 20% or so, but it's definitely a noticeable improvement. Bug fixes, shitty bugs, who cares? Okay. Version 1.9 updates. The update continues the DPB by targeting some of the remaining dominant caller meta. Ooh, spicy! Dominant caller meta getting chucked to the wayside. This is what we've been waiting for the whole lifetime of COH2. Right from the old days of going tier 1, tier 2 as Soviets and stalling for the IS-2. Right from those days, we've been waiting for call-ins to get a proper nerf, and I feel like it's finally happening. I mean, they did it incrementally. They moved the command point clocks like further out. They changed some of them to be bound by tiers, but now we're finally about to hit it. It looks like only heavy tanks are going to be exempt from this. Only IS-2s, which, as I said, got their command point clock pushed way back from what it used to be. I think it used to be like 8 CPs. Or maybe 10. But yeah, it used to come a lot earlier. Anyway, enough talk about the past. Let's talk about the changes. So what are getting tied to tech now? KV8. I said earlier in these patch notes things, this was the last remaining, one of the last remaining ones I thought was a real problem. M10 also a real problem. Notice it's not changing the bulldozer. You don't have to tech to get the bulldozer, so that's being treated more like a heavy tank now. And it kind of is a heavy tankish. Moves as slowly as a heavy tank. So Ostwind buildable only at the Schwer HQ. I actually call the Schwer HQ tier 4, but alright, because you get so many units as OKW from tier 0. I count it as tier 1 and tier 0. Anyway, cost reduced from 100 fuel to 90 fuel, so same as the Aussie one, the revised Aussie one. Flame hits are now buildable only at the Schwer Panzer HQ. I thought they changed this at 1.6 or something, so that's alright. So yeah, the Wolverine is by far the biggest change, because especially the Wolverine and the Ostwind both being typed, because it was so cancerous before. You would say as OKW you had gone for looks or whatever, and you'd actually managed to deal with the US Forces Stuart to counter your looks. Maybe, you baited over a mine and killed her through a kitten. It's like, wow, that's a really nice... Like, I executed something really well. I should get a reward from that. But not really, because the US Forces player could then, stall for only a few CPs and then call on the Wolverine, which would completely smash your looks. So you didn't get enough reward because of the M10, could always bail them out. So I'm very happy about these changes to call-ins. OKW Vox Unity STG upgrades, slot item change reverted. STG upgrade now once again occupies both slots. Yeah, I said that they reverted that. It was really just a stupid change. One of the dumbest changes I've ever seen. Storm Doctrine, tactical movement replaced with smoke bombs. So yeah, Storm Doctrine used to have sprints and ambush camouflage, but obviously now they merged into one ability, it kind of had like an empty slot. Oh, I had tactical movement and ambush camouflage. Now they've been merged into one ability. Yeah, kind of had an empty slot, so now it's got smoke bombs. I imagine it's the smoke bombs and recon run we've seen changed earlier in these patches. Soviet ISU, we felt the pop cap of the ISU was not in line with its improved performance. So yeah, they've stopped the projectile colliding with terrain. So they're making the pop cap go to 22 from 20, which is good. Now, same as the King Tiger, I think. And yeah, I have tested this and I feel like it's worth 22. Especially in team games. It's very worthwhile getting the ISU now that it doesn't collide with terrain. Like the one, you don't often get those like really bullshit one-shot wipes, but being able to like attack ground is just so much more reliable, makes the ISU just so much better. Again, we're just going to skip past the bugs because they're not really important. Version 2.0, final update. Here we are, final update. So here we are, general airplane loiters. Loiters would sometimes last longer than the denoted duration, could even acquire targets outside the visual indications. Standardized loiter duration 60 seconds and radius 50. But as I mentioned, with the 2 passes from the OKW air assault or whatever it is, actually makes this change, kind of makes that ability better than it should be, I feel. There's 2 passes, because if you get out of the zone after the first pass, it still acts as area denial despite only having 1 more pass in it. So I feel like it should only have like 40 seconds loiter as compensation. But yeah, I'll send a message to Mr. Smith and tell him to change that. ML20 was too effective at wiping infantry models. Near AoE damage reduced from 1 to 0.9, so it does 200 damage per hit, so now I'll do 180 damage per hit. So yeah, it depends on, if it gets to direct hits, it will still wipe stuff. I don't feel like this wasn't really a well, what does that change? I don't know if that changes anything, right? Yeah, I feel like this doesn't change anything. 180 damage and the near radius is still enough to kill. Maybe this is like the near AoE radius getting made smaller. Because yeah, 0.9 times 200 is still more than 80. So yeah, I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. KV1, to give the KV1 a more defined role, soaking damage, we are slightly increasing its durability and significantly increasing the rate at which it can be repaired. Following changes will result in the KV1s being 25% faster to repair. Raw hit points reverted from 960 to 800, so previous to this patch they were 800, they increased it to 960 and put it into tech at the same time. Now they're reverting that and giving it a received damage modifier of 0.8. I can kind of appreciate them trying to make it faster to repair, because you know, for 145 fuel, if you compare it to a Panther at 160 fuel, it's kind of, KV1's a little bit lackluster in that respect. But I don't like this change because it's just complicated, right? Every other tank in the game, HP has like this, just works. works the other way around. If you do 160 damage to the tank, it takes 160 damage, unless they have the austere command tank aura. So yeah, I don't really like this change, because I feel like it adds like a unique case to the game, which makes it confusing and hard to learn for newer players. But I suppose maybe at this stage of the game's life cycle, we're probably not going to have that many newer players. But in general, I don't really like situations like this, which create unique cases which can make the game more complicated and harder to learn. So I prefer if they made it faster to repair by some other method. For Mark G43 upgrade, Stormtroopers only. Change to the Stormtrooper G43 upgrade only benefited elite troops doctrine, which is already dominant at the expense of other doctrines, which goes against the intent of fostering more strategic diversity. Stormtrooper upgrade reverted to 2 G43s, does not affect Panzer Grenadiers. So yeah, Stormtroopers earlier in this patch got 3 G43s, they decided it was too good, and now they're getting 2 again. So I think Stormtroopers with 2 G43s are still slightly stronger than Grenadiers with 2 G43s, so still is a case for getting them, but it's not going to be like a overwhelming decision like we're definitely getting the G43s. OKW Squad XP. To normalize the XP value for OKW squads, given how much XP enemy units gain from attacking OKW squads, OKW units that have had their performance adjusted no longer award additional XP when transitioning from Vet 4 to Vet 5. So when shooting at a Vet 5 OKW squad, the multiplier is going from 2 to 1.8. So yeah, they did try and nerf a lot of Vet 5 things throughout this patch, so now they're making shooting at Vet 5 squads slightly less profitable. I don't know if this is a good or a bad change. I mean, it's not like Vet 5 gives you nothing, right? I suppose, yeah. I feel like OKW Veterancy is still slightly better than most other factions. Vet 4 and Vet 5, you know, usually gain something like suppressing fire or out of combat healing, something like that. So it's definitely something you still want. But yeah, maybe the 1.8 multiplier is enough. Panzer 2 looks, we want to delay the arrival time of the looks without delaying the arrival of the Mech HQ building. So yeah, the Mech HQ building already comes a little bit later than the mid base because it's higher fuel cost, and obviously you need that truck deployed to get access to your Panzerfaust. So they're trying not to delay the Mech HQ building to further delay Panzerfausts. So instead they're going to increase the build time of the looks from 40 to 85 seconds. So you know, 3/4 of a minute. That's a pretty large delay to the looks. I think the looks also got a slight nerf this patch as well. So rushing the looks has been the meta for OKW for a long time now, and this patch they've buffed the A half track. So maybe you've got another way to go this patch. Maybe the A half track is worth a second look. But certainly, I mean, this, you know, you're certainly probably going to get people going for looks first, but if you lose your looks, you're not going to rebuild it anymore. Rebuilding at 85 seconds, there's just no chance. So yeah, it's probably a fine change. Yeah, the looks came very early for how strong it was. Anyway, Spec Ops Command Panther. We want to delay the arrival time of the Command Panther to prevent Spec Ops Doctrine from dominating opposition in 1v1 and overshadowing all OKW doctrines due to the call-in mechanic. CP increase from 11 to 12, so another command point change. So still comes before IS-2s, But I think this is justified. The only real reason you need the Command Panther earlier than this was to counter M10s, but now the M10s are behind tech. I think it makes sense for the Command Panther to go back. Still coming in earlier than other heavies like IS-2s, ISUs and whatnot, but comes in a little bit later than before. And yeah, because you don't need it to counter Wolverines anymore, I think this is a justified change. Good change. So yeah, there are all changes from 1.7 to 2.0. So that's it. That's probably my last video from December Balance Preview. How about that? Thank you all for tuning in throughout these updates. Hopefully I've made these interesting, and sorry for the delay on this last one coming through, but you know, the changes were coming so thick and fast. I was like, oh god, I'll just do it all in one go when I actually have some spare time. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed these videos, and stick around for the replays. Thanks.